Hey, how's it going, Alberto? So I guess a few things. One is when I'm doing a preacher curl. I guess you've seen it's like a seated preacher curl, right? So, do you usually have your elbow as far down on the pad as possible? I guess I don't have one next to me, but if I can describe it, it's basically, I'm sitting on the seat, and then I have like the preacher curl. I have my arm like this. I'm kind of leaning over, but I can lean a little bit further over and get my elbow towards the bottom of the pad versus my elbow kind of resting on the middle of the pad. I guess how do you normally I guess the elbow position in terms of like whether that's in the middle of the pad or like all the way at the bottom of the pad, in which case I'm kind of leaning over the preacher curl lip. Um, so there's that. The next thing I was wondering about was more from like when you're doing, for example, 3 sets with 6 to 10 full round reps at 10, as an example. Does it have to be the same weight all the way across? Because I'm kind of thinking about it. Wouldn't it be better stimulus if, let's say, I do like 80 pounds and then I do 75, 75? Because let's say if I did 75 straight across and I'm just hitting 10, 10, and 10, that would mean that for that first that I'm using 75 pounds for, 10 reps is probably not an at 10, right? If I can do 10 reps for both the second and third set. So I'm wondering if maybe I do like 80 pounds and I hit like 9 or 10 on that, and then I drop that down, I do 75, and maybe I'm hitting like 8 or 9 on that, and then maybe I do 75 again, and I hit maybe 7 on that. I think that's superior, but I'm curious if maybe you disagree with me on that. Um, the next thing I just have a lot of things that I'm just thinking about is so I noticed that when I'm doing my squat, I know you think my squat looks reasonable. I think it looks reasonable too, but I guess I don't have a video this week, but you can look at my older videos, but you might not be able to even see it, which is that I noticed that when I go all the way at the bottom of the squat, my hips, or if I don't really focus, my hips kind of shift back a little bit. I'm not sure if that's actually what happens, but it's the feeling of my hips maybe shifting back a little bit. And maybe it's taking some of the pressure off of my quads, which I'm assuming I do not want to do. And I guess what's going on there? Is that a common thing? I guess should I just be very mindful as I'm getting down into the bottom of my squat to like keep those hips forward or in the same position they are? Because I think it's very subtle, but I think there is at the very bottom, just my hips are going back just slightly to the point where you probably can't see in the video, but I can feel it in terms of the load being placed on my quads versus maybe a little bit more on my glutes than I would want, or hand, whatever, it's probably glutes, right? Than I would want to. Um, and the next thing I'm wondering is, so on the VMO squat, so I'm doing 15 reps per set. Do you think, I guess, am I making them difficult enough if I'm doing them for 15 reps? Yeah, I guess what kind of the rep range do you usually think of there? Or do you think that the intensity of my VMO squats is reasonable? Um, and, speaking of like form changes, I think you definitely made a great point in the last check-in terms of bending my elbows at the very stretched position for the pec deck. Maybe I had to reduce the weight maybe 10 to 20 pounds, but the stimulus that I'm getting on that is insane. Those few additional inches that I'm able to like get my pecs to squeeze out. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that, because you saw the video. I mean, the one that I'm doing now, you can see I am bending it a little bit in the elbows, and it's making such a massive difference in terms of like really getting those pecs in the stretch position, which is pretty cool. Um, I guess also just kind of because I look through the videos before I send them to you, and I guess one thing I noticed is it's slight. But would you agree with me that on the Kelso shrug, my elbows are bending a little bit more than you'd probably want? Because I think that the whole point is to have it like hooks, right? In terms of no elbow bend, and I'm just moving the like that kind of like, I guess, am I like retracting my scapula? I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I guess I'm retracting my scapula to bring the weight up. Um, yeah, I guess I need to focus on keeping that elbow straight, which is actually difficult because I think in my head I was thinking I'm keeping my arm straight, but when I review the video, I noticed that there are a few degrees of my elbow just like bending a little bit. So see what happens. Yeah, I think that's about it. Also, I guess just more my curiosity. Would you say I'm built more for bodybuilding or powerlifting? It's just my curiosity. I actually vastly prefer bodybuilding to powerlifting now that I'm into it. It was more just my thoughts. I would assume that it's more bodybuilding than powerlifting just because my joints are so small. But yeah, all right. I think that was it. Thanks.